Hello, my name is swissbianco. In this video I will talk about the 84mm firesteel cadet Swiss Army knife. This was made by Victorinox in a limited edition of 100 pieces for swissbianco in the November 2015. Those were the first that were made in this size. There in the past we had the bigger size, the 93mm firesteel variation, but the 84mm, that is the first run that was made in that configuration. About the history of that unique Swiss Army knife, back as I was stuck in Switzerland, I did hear about the late Mr. Brunner, a great Swiss that did collect Swiss Army knives, and he was also especially fond of firesteel knives. The firesteel part is on top here. That's basically really hard heat treated carbon steel that if you hit it in a correct angle with a flint create sparks, so that you could catch those sparks, say with a tinder of some sort, and start the fire. So that was basically a older or historic method of starting fires for use in the kitchen, for a campfire, for whatever. Back then the people maybe did not have too much of the regular lighters, and also not the matches. And what he told me back then, as we did meet on one of his great expositions, was also back in the day those matches were pretty expensive and precious, so the people always did look for a cheaper way, a more economical way that they could afford of starting a fire. And the firesteel variation is quite common as a tool that is not connected with a knife, but there were also of course items that did get combined, and it was logical for at least some of the people back then to combine the fire steel with a knife, so they had those two items fixed together and just have to carry one item. That even makes more sense as we have the fire steel on a Swiss Army knife design, because you not only have the blade, you have some more tools, useful tools there as well. So back in the day, Mr. Brunner did meet with Mr. Fischlin, another great Swiss man who had the skill set to manufacture the actual fire steel part. And they did ask Victorinox to assemble them with the Soldier Swiss Army knife, the 93mm alox Soldier. So that is how that did get started in the past. On the fire steel itself we have the Fischlin logo. He stamped his design on it. We see the fish, and inside it has the lean lettering there, so that resembles his name, Fischlin. That is a touch that we see. Sometimes the heat treating of the carbon steel gives a bit more patterning or around on the, like we have here in the back, so it even looks like the fish would swim in water, because we have all that clouds and surface oxidation there a bit from the heat treating. Again, this is carbon steel that can rust, so be careful for storage. Unfortunately, that fire steel not gonna work with a stainless steel. It needs to be carbon steel, so that is by the nature of the material that way. How the item got mounted, basically Mr. Fischlein makes a new liner. We see the middle liner is going upwards, more up there, and it has a little dimple that goes into the firesteel, and then we have a tension pin that holds the item in place. So the whole item really is secured on the Swiss Army knife. You can take off the firesteel by taking out the tension pin if that ever wears out. So far Damon Eggert and we did use those firesteel over, I would say decades now, that did never wear out, and that material is so tough, and it's gonna take off so little material for actually create the sparks. As we see on this one, used one, you see a bit scratches. That is where the material is taken off or create the sparks for start the fire. That we don't believe that that's gonna wear out, that somebody be able to wear that out in a lifetime or more. So that's another aspect also that counts in today. If you have a big lighter or whatever fluid lighter and or matches, that's gonna wear out one day. Also those magnesium parts and all the other ways you can make a fire. But the firesteel, that is for sure one of the most longest lasting items that will be hard to wear that out. Then as the liner is made, that is assembled in the usual way by Victorinox, simply by revetting, replacing the original liner with this one. So that item is next to the 93mm Soldier Swiss Army knife. One of the models that I like the most, that I try to keep up as longest as possible, and there are already plans to make even more improved variations of that firesteel knife in a different material choice, but we're gonna see that in the future, how well that's gonna work. So the knife is a regular cadet. As we see, we did select the classic silver scales with the red Victorinox shield. We have the basic 2-layer Swiss Army knife in the cadet variation in 84mm handle length. The first layer we have the knife and the nail file, and then the second layer is the opener. So it still makes a really compact Swiss Army knife. On the back side we have here the engraving plate. This one doesn't have the split ring attachment, that is without it. As we hold the blue 93mm knife on top, we see the firesteel part is a bit longer as well on the bigger knife, so that fits for the size of the knife itself. The construction and all that is all the same. The blue one is a bit older series that we did in the past for swissbianco. This one is a farmer. Mr. Bronner and Mr. Fischlein did do mainly the Soldier Swiss Army knife, and then some of the Pioneer, just the regular Pioneer, but I did find it useful that we do that on the farmer, because then you have a wood saw added on the knife itself. That is for outdoor use pretty important. So we at swissbianco, we did mainly farmer Swiss Army knives in the firesteel configuration. So that much about the 84mm silver alox cadet in the firesteel variation.